Dan, is that you?
Yes, it is.
Sweet. Glad to see I actually got this thing working properly this time.
I just texted you. I said I couldn't find the link to go to Hangouts, but you just posted it on the YouTube.
Okay, yeah, okay, see, there's one thing I'm going to have to do here.
I just texted you. I said I couldn't find the link to go to Hangouts, but you just posted it on the YouTube.
Okay, yeah, okay, see, there's one thing I'm going to have to do here.
I just texted you. I said I couldn't find the link to go to Hangouts, but you just posted it on the YouTube.
Okay, yeah, okay, see, there's one thing. Okay, I need to exit from, because I'm now hearing everything twice.
Yeah, I am too. I said I paused my YouTube, but
yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pause the YouTube. I need to have that so that I can see the chat window. Or maybe just turn off the sound. That's what I'll turn off the sound on the YouTube. Yeah, just turn off the sound on the audio on the YouTube.
I can close it because it doesn't matter if mine's working or not.
Okay. Yes, Rebecca, you make a good point. Please, please, if you are in the YouTube, please send a chat saying who you are so I can check you off the list. Some of you may see the chat at the bottom underneath of the video. Some of you may see it to the side. It's hard for me to see what your setup is exactly like. We have, I'm going to give it another minute or two just to allow folks to filter in. Before we begin. Okay. Yeah, I think we'll start it at 4 minutes and 22 seconds after the hour. There's actually some research which shows that if you tell somebody a time that is an exact number of minutes, they tend to be late. But if you tell them some number that includes some unusual number of seconds, they tend to be on time. And I'm not sure why that works, but okay, I think we'll get started. Just a minute, just another minute. Okay, so I think we'll get started. Looks like the number of folks in the chat has stabilized. My name is Josh Diamond. I'm the Eastern Regional Director for Destination Imagination of New York. Some of you may already know me, may have met me before, may have seen me at tournaments if you were a parent of a participant before or were a team manager before. I've been doing this now, it's been about 10 years. I've been everything from just a parent to a team manager to webmaster. I've had a lot of different roles, and most recently the regional director. My background, technically, I'm a program manager, project manager at a software company. You may have heard of it. It's the one that writes the software that we're using right now. I lead teams there, and the way I lead teams there is very similar to the way I used to manage DI teams. It's hands-off management, and I find this very applicable. I want to introduce my colleague, Dan Boniello, who is our training director. Dan, say hello.
Hello.
We're probably going to go back and forth. I will do some things myself, and I will pass other things on to Dan to talk about, and then we'll have questions and answers. Please use the chats. Either in the it doesn't look like anybody besides Dan and myself has joined the two-way audio, the chat with the two-way audio. But feel free to do that. We can take up to I think 10 participants that way. Everybody else, feel free to use the YouTube chat channel with your questions, and I'll try to make sure that we stop occasionally so that we can answer them. Please do understand that there is a delay between us speaking and when it actually gets out on YouTube. I believe it's about 15 seconds. It may be a little bit less. I set it for for the low delay. I'm not sure whether it's how low it is, and that depends on the network conditions. So do understand that we might not be able to answer questions instantly when you post them. But I will be paying attention to them. So with that, I'm going to put on the slides. And Dan, do you want to just launch on the slides and just tell me when you want me to advance them? Okay.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Let's do this. Application window. There we go. There we go. And you're on, Dan.
So Josh has heard this before, so he might be able to advance sometimes without me telling him. But welcome, by the way. My name is Dan Boniello. I'm the affiliate training director for Destination Imagination New York, and I'm a program participant of 6 years who has now been involved in the other end of it and appraising and doing trainings, and I was a school coordinator for a while, and I like to run this training, kind of giving you an overview of what it's like to be a team manager. It's a little more difficult over webinar to cover a little bit more of the hands-on stuff that we do in person, but we try to give you a little bit of an overview of the basics in the next kind of hour we have here. So the big overview is that the secret to being a team manager is that it is actually fun. It is an enjoyable experience. You're going to see things you never thought you'd see. We're going to cover a lot of information tonight. You're going to cover a lot of information over the course of the year, but there are always support systems in place in the program to help you, and we'll give you email addresses and phone numbers and people to reach out to when you need help. But the overarching idea of the program is that it is fun for you and for the kids that are participating. So keep that in mind. It's going to maybe sound some points in this presentation like it's going to be a little overwhelming, and it might be at points, but it is a fun program to be involved in. So moving over here, we have what is Destination Imagination? And they've actually updated their vision and their mission just recently. There's a video here if you go later on to watch a video. I don't think it'll present with sound. But if you
Presenting with sound.
It is presenting, no,
No, it's not.
So if you watch that on the Prezi, which will be posted, I believe, on the New York website. You can actually click and watch the video. It's called Destination Imagination Changes Lives. And it really gets to the heart of why this program exists. And it is to change the lives of kids. The vision is to inspire and equip participants to achieve anything they can imagine in life. And the mission is to engage participants in a project-based challenges that are designed to build confidence, develop extraordinary creativity, critical thinking, communication, and teamwork skills. And that sounds kind of broad and maybe over the top to achieve anything they can imagine in life. But I'll tell you, as an alumnus of the program, it really does give you things that other programs cannot, that regular school programs cannot, because they are just not organized in a way that you can do all of these different hands-on, creative problem-solving tasks so driven by the student creation. And that's just kind of the design of the school system and things like that. There's just not enough time or space or teachers to be able to do that. So DI gives an outlet for those students to be creative and to learn new skills. So what goes into DI? The DI equation is made up of two different things. There's the team challenge, which is a long-term challenge that the team chooses one thing to work on for the several month period. So you'll see later, we'll talk about what the challenges this year are, but every year there are 6 challenges for the teams to choose from. They choose one of those and they work on that for several months. There's the central challenge and then team choice elements, which are kind of special things the team can work into their presentation. So that team challenge, which again is long-term, one challenge that the team is working on for several months. The other part of that is the instant challenge, which is the short-term creative problem-solving skills. On the day of the tournament, teams get a new challenge they've never seen before, and they only have a couple of minutes to solve it. So you've got long-term problem-solving skills, which is the team challenge, and then the short-term problem-solving skills in the instant challenge, and you add those together, and you get a complete educational package. You get teams that are learning to do creative problem solving over different periods of time and in different ways, and learning how to apply those skills to different challenges that they face. So you'll hear a little bit about what these team challenges look like, what goes into them, and the instant challenges. There are plenty of examples of those in the rules of the road for you to do with your teams. And there's actually more supplies and resources open for those. Those are things you can practice over and over again with the kids. They're always different. There's tons of them to work on. And like I said, on the day of the tournament, they get a new one that nobody's ever seen before.
Before we go on, oh, it sounds like we've got some feedback. Is everybody hearing me clearly? Dan, are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I wanted to talk a little bit about DI philosophy. In the typical classroom environment, it's what's called frontal instruction. It's a teacher in the front of the class pushing information to the student. In more modern classrooms, you tend to see more collaborative learning, but it's still fundamentally a push model in that the school and the teacher are pushing knowledge to the student. The fundamental idea in DI is the exact opposite. We set up challenges that students want to do well on the challenges because they want to get a medal at the tournament. They want to advance to the state finals. They want to get a medal there and then go on to global finals and maybe stand up on that podium in front of teams from all over the world. In order to do that, they need to solve the challenge in excellence. In order to solve the challenge in excellence, they're going to have to learn something. So rather than us pushing knowledge to the student, they're going out and looking for sources for information. They're pulling the knowledge. The motivation is flipped. So instead of us pushing stuff to the student is coming to us. The kids on the team are coming to us and they're saying things like, Hey, team manager, could you help me learn how to X? Hey, team manager, could you help me learn how to Y? Hey, team manager, could you find someone who could teach us structural engineering skills? Can you find someone who can teach us fabric construction skills for building our costumes and so on? Things like that. And let me just double check to make sure you don't have questions before we continue. Okay, Dan, continue.
So there are different levels of competition you see here. The who competes. There's the Rising Stars, which are preschool to second grade. It's a non-competitive challenge, and the students in that level have one challenge to choose from. It's the Rising Stars Challenge, designed specifically for the younger age group. Like I said, non-competitive. They create a solution and they present it on tournament day for feedback only. And that Rising Stars level is kind of a separate entity in that many of the rules are a little bit more flexible, let's say, and because they're the younger kids, there's a little bit more understanding that they need a little bit more hand holding through the process. The elementary, middle, and secondary level are typical public school levels. They are defined by the team, just choosing a level either by the birth date, which you see there, June 15, 2007, June 15, 2004, June 15th, 2000, or by the grade level, kindergarten through 5th, 6th through 8th, or 9th through 12th. So a team, when you're registering, decides, are you going to be identified by the birth dates of the students, or are you going to be identified by the grade levels? You can't mix and match how you're going to define your team. So if you're going to say our team is middle level because we have no students born before June 15th, 2004, you can't work in a student who doesn't meet that criteria because they are in 8th grade. So you as a team have to decide which level you're going to compete in based on which criteria. It is actually, I think, impossible, and Josh, you can correct me if I'm wrong. You put in all the information on the website when you register, and it will only let you register for the correct level.
Yeah, there's a the best thing to do is to put in all your you'll be asked for the kids' ages, birth dates, and grades in the New York DI registration system. Then there's a button next to the level selection that says auto. If you just click on auto, it'll pick the lowest competition level that your team can compete at. And that's probably what you want. You don't want it. It's generally not wise for a team that is eligible to compete at the elementary level, say, to actually compete at the middle level. They have the best chances if they're competing at the elementary level, right? So that's
and then university level is full-time post-secondary students enrolled in college, university, trade, or technical school, or in the military. College-bound high school seniors who are taking accredited courses are also eligible for that, but I don't know if that applies to anyone taking that, so we can kind of gloss over that. The moving on here in the next slide, the important thing to remember here is that on tournament day, it's a celebration of what the kids have accomplished through the year. It is not like a cutthroat competition where only the winners are celebrated. It's really just an overall celebration of what these kids are able to come up with. It is very difficult to just make it through this process through these couple months with a solution and be brave enough to present that solution on tournament day. So we celebrate the fact that the kids did that, and we celebrate the creativity of all of these kids and celebrate the minor victories. There is a winner that goes on to the next level, but really tournament day is a celebration of creativity and these kids coming up with something to meet the criteria of this challenge. So remember that on tournament day we are celebrating all of the successes of these kids, and we really want that to be the emphasis. We're called appraisers because we give praise to the solutions of the kids. creations instead of judges. We're not judging their work, we're praising what they were able to come up with. So that's kind of at the heart of DI, is this idea that we are celebrating the victories of these kids.
Well, that's something that we should be doing every day. Anytime you, as a team manager, see that they have succeeded at some part of the solution, or even that they have failed at some part of the solution, they've tried something and it hasn't worked out. Both of those are equally valid results. Both of those are things that are important, that are worth celebration. If they've succeeded at something, great, they succeeded, it worked. We can move on to something else that we need to work on. If they are, if they've failed at something, if they've tried something and it didn't work out, well, that's an opportunity to look at it and learn and see what about it didn't work, and before they try the next thing.
All right, moving on here. So at the heart of Destination Imagination is the idea that the entire solution that we see on tournament day is created by the team. So there are up to 7 team members on a team that all meet the criteria of the age level or grade level. And those 7 team members are the only people that can come up with the ideas that we see in the solution. So team managers can help the team develop skills to get there to the solution. There's certain things that the team managers can help manage throughout the tournament season, but the actual solution that we see on tournament day must be created by the 7 team members. So here we have a little pyramid that breaks off the interference concepts for a little bit of what can team managers do and what can't they. So starting with skills at the bottom of the pyramid, skills obviously are important things to have. We all learn skills. All the team members will come into the program with different levels of skills. Some will astound you with the skills that they already have. But one of the main concepts that we talked about earlier in the DI program is that the students are supposed to learn new skills over the course of the program that they can apply to their lives, either in their work life or their personal lives. So teaching these skills to kids is completely allowed. So let's say you're doing woodworking at some point in your presentation, teaching the kids how to work with wood, how to use power tools, how to use a saw, how to use a drill, how to use a hammer. All of these things are things that you can teach the kids how to do. If you don't know how to do this, you can ask other people to teach the kids how to do this. You can find someone in the town who does woodworking and have them do a workshop with the kids where they teach them all of these skills. That is completely allowed. We want the kids to learn new skills, and you can really go by any means that you can to teach these skills. Is there a teacher in the building that can teach the kids? Is there a parent on the team that can teach the kids? Is there a community member? Find ways that these kids can learn the skills that they need to learn for the program. Sewing, woodworking, painting, any kind of skill you can think of, definitely teach the kids if they need it for this. Okay, so that's base level, definitely allowed. Infrastructure is now getting a little bit more specific into Destination Imagination. So the challenge itself is written pretty clearly, but especially if we're working with 3rd, 4th, 5th graders, helping them understand the challenge is going to be very important. Understand exactly what they need to do, what they can't do, the different elements they have to include. That is completely allowed. Teach them the challenge and make sure they know what to do. That also goes for the rules of the road, which is the booklet that applies the rules to all of the different challenges. You can make sure that they know what the rules they need to follow in that are. That includes budgeting, that includes different program requirements. Make sure that they understand these basics because they can't solve the challenge without them. Time management also falls into infrastructure, especially in the central challenge. I don't know if many people here work with elementary and middle school aged kids, even high school aged kids, but the concept of working on one thing over a several month period and actually having it be done at the end of that several month period is a little daunting to them, or can be a little daunting to them. So helping them manage the time that they're working on the challenge is something that's going to be very important for a team manager. So helping them understand, at this several week period, we need to get this much done. The end of this several week period, we need to have our skit written. At the end of this several week period, we need to have our set built. By this point, we should have everything together and just be rehearsing. If you don't do that, the likelihood that they'll come out at the end of this with the kind of entirety of the challenge done is very unlikely. It'll be kind of 2 nights before the tournament, and they'll say, "Oh, we should probably build our set." So make sure that they understand time management and help them manage their time. And then there's also creative problem solving tools included in the rules of the road, uh, in the roadmap, which is another resource available to team managers, helping them understand what these creative problem solving tools are and how to use the creative process, which it outlines, to come up with a solution is also part of the infrastructure. So they have different brainstorming activities, they have different kind of processes the kids can go through in coming up with a solution. So the tools that are given to the team manager in the roadmap are also allowed to be explained to the students. So far we've got skills, we've got infrastructure as things that the team manager or any other person are allowed to work on with the kids. Moving into the red area of the period is the area that only the 7 team members or up to 7 team members are allowed to participate in, and that is the actual solution that is team specific. So, becoming a part of idea generation or decision making or contributing any work toward the challenge solution is interference. So this is the place where the skills that they've learned combined with the infrastructure of the challenge come together into one specific solution that is wholly creative and unique to the team. So putting those pieces together is the area that falls into interference. So you can teach the kids how to work with wood. You can show them what the challenge says they have to do. But you can't come up with the item that the team is supposed to build. So you can't build it for them, or you can't tell them what to build or how to build it. They learn the skills, they figure out what they have to do, and then they come up with their solution on their own. So that's the red area of the pyramid, the synth where the team synthesizes everything into one unique solution. Josh, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yeah, there's a few things I wanted to add on that. There is nothing that is more heartbreaking for an appraising team or for a challenge master or for a regional director or tournament director like myself than to have to take away points from kids. It's just heartbreaking. And it's heartbreaking on the surface because they won't score as well as they thought they would. It's heartbreaking in a different way because it's happened because the adults that were involved stole their experience. This only works if there's no interference. If mom and dad are helping, or if brother is helping, or teacher is helping them saw something or glue something, that's essentially taking away from their knowledge and taking away from their belief system that tells them that they can solve the challenge. When we interfere, we're kind of stealing that and we're telling them you can't. And it really bothers me. it's heartbreaking when it happens. So don't do it. That's simple.
Adding to that, as Josh said, you know, it's heartbreaking.
Examples.
Yeah, we're gonna give a couple examples here. Adding to that real quick though, what Josh said about, you know, taking points away from the kids, we hate doing it, but it is the kind of thing that makes a level playing field for all participants. So the DI appraisers really stick to that. If points need to be taken away, they are taken away, because if they aren't, then it gives an unfair advantage to one team that another team didn't have. So that although we hate taking points away, we have to stick to that, even for minor infractions, because that's what creates a level playing field. So here's some examples moving on here. So interference examples: repairing or creating props or costumes, using any ideas from parents, teachers, or anyone other than the 7 brains of the team members, applying makeup. That's a big one on the day of the tournament. It's painful to go into some of these bathrooms and you see a kid standing there and their mom or dad or team manager is applying makeup to them. And it's always done with the best of intentions. They want the kid to do well. They want them to have a good experience, so they're helping. But that is something that actually takes away from the experience. Let the kid put on their makeup themselves. Let one of the other kids put on the makeup for them. But adults are not allowed to help on tournament day. You always see parents either, you know, helping with their hairdo or helping with their makeup or helping repair last minute costumes. That is not allowed in the interference rules. And then also this one is a big one that you see a lot, is giving stage directions. Kids will perform the skit and the team manager will sit up there. You need to be louder. You need to face this way. You need to stand over here. You need to say it like this. Even those examples are interference, because you are telling the kid how to perform the material, and that directly influences their solution. Let the kids perform their skit in front of a camera and then show them the recording, and they can come up with the fact that you can't hear them, that they need to speak louder. Don't give them those stage directions. Okay? Things that are not interference, moving on here. Loading or unloading materials is allowed on tournament day. So if the kids are bringing stage pieces or props or anything to the tournament, you are allowed to help them load and unload. Teaching skills, as we talked about, is not interference. Helping the team understand the rules. Monitoring safety is a big one. So if the kids are using a power tool, for example, you cannot have your hand on that power tool cutting the wood with them. You should stand right next to them and make sure they're doing it safely, and teach them how to do it safely. Teach them the correct tools to use. I don't know what's happening. We seem to be moving all over the place here.
I don't know. I have lost the place. I apologize. We're back. Sorry about that.
No problem. So, as Josh always says, you know, give the kids a sharp blade to work with, because a sharp blade is safer than a dull blade.
Let me speak on that, on the safety item. There's a couple of things I really want to call out about safety. We have an entire session, separate webinar on technical elements that covers workshop safety in addition, but there's a few things that I really want to leave you with about workshop safety. Number one, there does need to be an adult supervising. Unless you're talking about a very senior level team who has who already have a lot of experience with power tools and with sharp tools, you need to be there watching. And even then, you should have somebody who's an adult and who's there who can supervise is ideal. Sharp blades are always safer than dull blades, because dull blades have a tendency to slip and move jerkily and slip out of the thing that's being cut, and instead cut the hand instead of cutting the material. Use the right tool for the job. The right tool is always safer than the wrong tool. Little kids can learn how to use power tools safely. If they are not strong enough to hold the tool, then they need to find a different way to get that done. And that's part of their solving the challenge. It might mean using Home Depot, because at Home Depot, you can buy wood cut to length. It'll end up costing a little bit against their budget, and we'll talk about that later, but it's going to be safer for them. That doesn't mean that you say, well, okay, this is an elementary team, therefore they have to buy all their wood cut to size. It means you need to assess as a team manager whether they can safely use those tools. Eye protection. Let me say that again. Eye protection. There was actually a case last year of a student that had a serious eye injury, not during the tournament. It was after the DI season was over for the year. They were playing around with something that they built for their challenge, and in a moment of carelessness, used it in a way that caused an injury. They weren't wearing eye protection. They were using it in a way that it had never been used at the tournament, but they still had access to the device. And so you actually need to think, when you're monitoring for safety, there may be things that the team builds that are only safe to use under certain controlled circumstances. And it's up to you to monitor for those controlled circumstances. And I'm especially anything that involves projectiles or anything that's sharp or that involves electricity. And that's my spiel about safety.
And then the last part of interference here is anything related to instant challenge is not interference. And so, like I said, the instant challenges are short term. There's a lot of different ones they can work on during the year preparing. And the one they get on tournament day is completely new and nobody's ever seen it before. So that is why there's really no interference instant challenge. You can teach them how to use the materials that they get in instant challenges. There's a couple of materials that kind of show up over and over again, things like pipe cleaners, index cards, mailing labels, straws, pencils. You can have them use these materials, teach them how to use them, give them example instant challenges that use these materials, and actually work through them with the team, let them practice them over and over again. And like I said, there's no interference, because on the day of the tournament, they're going to get a completely new instant challenge that nobody has ever seen before. So there's really no way that you could have helped give them an unfair advantage in that one. No one has seen that instant challenge. So you can't give them the solution ahead of time. On the tournament day, if you're sitting in the room, obviously you can't prompt them and tell them what to do. But ahead of time, there's really almost no way that you can interfere in instant challenge. Moving on here. So these are all different ideas that I took from the roadmap, which once again is a material given to all team managers once you register. But different ways that you as a team manager can help build a successful team. So if we kind of go through each of these, I'll give you a couple examples in each. These ideas kind of apply to all team building, not just Destination Imagination. So a lot of them are going to sound familiar, but have common goals and purposes. All right, so there are definite common goals in DI. I mean, you want to solve the challenge, you want to learn new skills, but give the team that common goal as something to aim for. Don't let them start feeling like they're solving different things separate from each other. They're all working toward that team goal, and have a sense of opportunity and challenge about the team's work toward the goal, so that they feel like they are really going for something. It's not something that they are just having to do. It's something that they get to do together. And then next here we've got share responsibility and leadership. One of the most common things, Josh, if you want to click. One of the most common issues that you're going to see on a team is that one team member or a small group of the team takes the leadership away from other groups who feel like they don't have a voice. So let each student feel like they have a role and a responsibility on the team and a share of the leadership. There can be maybe a team member who is more of a moderator that likes to moderate discussions and does that, but there shouldn't be someone who is in charge of the rest of the team members, because then the other group members will feel like they're kind of subordinates, and you don't want them to feel like that. They all have a responsibility. Maybe different team members have different strengths. Play towards those strengths. If someone is better at writing the script, let them know that their role has more to do with that. Someone's better at woodworking, let them know that their role is more towards that. But everyone should play a little bit of a part in each and feel like they are part of the larger solution, and that they have, as it says, an opportunity to contribute in a meaningful way. You don't have someone writing the script and building the set, and then another team member's job is to, write or draw a picture that is barely seen, because they're not going to feel like they had as meaningful a contribution as the other team member, and that's where kind of resentment starts to build in on the team, and people don't start contributing as much as they can. Moving on here, it's important for you as a team manager to be a program expert. You're already attending a webinar, which is a good start. But any trainings that are offered, check them out. If you can attend. They help you kind of just get new facets of the program under your belt so that you can bring them back to your team. Our New York website is nydi.org, and they are on there are a lot of different resources that are available for team managers. So if you want to check that out, there's links to prior webinars. There's pictures of different solutions over time that you can check out. There's registration info. There's different things on there that are important for team managers. So NYDI is going to be a resource for you, along with the destinationimagination.org, which is the global website. Reach out to other team managers. If you are a new team manager and you are looking for someone to help you, reach out to Josh and he'll set you up in connection with a veteran team manager who can help you work through some of the problems throughout the year. I've always found that team managers who are veterans of the program that come back year after year are more than happy to help the other newer team managers, because like I said before, this isn't about a cutthroat competition. This is a celebration of what kids can accomplish, and we are in this for the kids, for the team members. So team managers are 99% of the time more than willing to help other team managers get through problems, because that's what helps the kids. If you have a successful team manager, the team will be successful with them. Reach out to your regional director, who's Josh in the Eastern region here. Your training director is me, and the affiliate director is Sue Braley. Send us emails. We're more than happy to help. The challenges and the rules of the road are the program materials that, if you're a team manager and the team members, should know pretty much back and front. Read the challenge over and over and over again, along with the rules of the road, to make sure, one, that you've included everything that you need to, and two, that you haven't done anything that you aren't supposed to. There's always teams that show up on tournament day that have not met a certain requirement of the challenge, or have done something that leads to a deduction because they haven't read the rules of the road or the challenge completely. So please, please, please read those over and over and over again and know every element in them. It's not enough just to read them at the beginning of the tournament season and then forget about them. Read them throughout over and over and over again. And then the roadmap, which I mentioned before, is a resource that Destination Imagination came out with a couple of years back that, especially for new team managers, is essential. It walks you through meeting by meeting, especially the first couple meetings, what to do in a meeting, what activities you can do with the kids, what brainstorming materials you can use with them, what instant challenges to do with them, how to explain the Destination Imagination. It really is step-by-step instructions, especially for the first couple meetings, of how to run your team through the year. It gives you a breakdown of what kind of milestones you should have throughout the year, how to plan your calendar. It really is a resource that is so helpful for new team managers and even veteran team managers, just to rethink how you're going about the year. It's well written. It's been kind of updated year after year based on suggestions, based on feedback from participants, and it is. I can't kind of get into enough how helpful it is for team managers breaking down the year. So please use that resource. I know a lot of new team managers kind of just gloss over it. If you follow that roadmap, it helps get the team off to the right start and gets them into what they need to be doing.
I just wanted to reiterate one thing, which is that don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call me as your regional director, or to talk to another team manager, or to email me. It's our job to provide you with support. I like to say we offer the shoulder to cry on service. If you're stuck and you don't know how to proceed, don't wait. I'd rather just say, like, if it's something and you're asking me a question and it's something that you just didn't know how to find, I will tell you where to find the answer, or one of my colleagues will. So really, don't worry about contacting us. It will have no impact on your team's scores or how they do at the tournament, and it will make your life a lot easier and make them have a better time.
And moving on here to the next one. Yep. Become a process expert. This kind of goes along with what you're saying of the roadmap. Learn and apply the creative problem-solving tools. Balance the needs of different learning styles to support the group productivity. And if you, like I said, follow that roadmap, there are all different resources for different learning styles that you can use different ones throughout the year so that each kid has a way to contribute in whatever way is most comfortable for them. Okay, moving on here. That was a quick one. Foster effective communication. This is tough, especially in elementary and middle school. Find a way for the kids to be able to share their ideas in an honest and trusting environment where they're not kind of putting each other down, but where they feel like they can share their ideas and not have kind of stigmas around them. So they want to be able to listen and share and have a sense of excitement with each other of the fact that, you know, we're coming up with these ideas and we're working together. So make sure you develop this kind of early on in the process. I'm working in a school where we're working on kind of an advisory program that focuses a lot on this communication idea. And what they really emphasize with us is to sweat the small stuff early on. So don't let the kids start talking over each other. Don't let them start putting each other's ideas down early on, because as soon as that becomes the kind of norm of the meetings, it's hard to work it out of it. But if you early on in the process make that very clear that this is how we communicate with each other, this is how we support each other, that's going to be fostered throughout the rest of the year. Okay, moving on. Oh. Yeah. It's not moving in direct. I think we skipped one, Josh. One more. So have respect for people and ideas. This kind of goes with what we were saying. Recognize and respect diversity. There's different learning styles in your group. There are going to be different skill sets, different strengths. Allow the kids to respect each other's strengths and weaknesses. And this sounds easier than it is, but manage disagreement in a way that there's not resentment built on it. Allow disagreement to turn into discussions over finding the best solution for the group toward meeting your goal. It shouldn't be to decision made based on just what one kid wants or over the other kid. It's find a way that the kids can figure out what the best decision for their team is. Use those tools in the roadmap. And Josh, I know this is kind of usually where your talk on voting comes in. So I'm going to give you a second to talk about that.
Wish I knew why the presentation keeps moving by itself, but I don't. Yeah. Don't vote. No.
Well,
You should
vote, but don't vote.
definitely all vote on November 6th. No question. You should definitely all vote. But don't ask your team to vote. And the reason you shouldn't vote, have teams vote, is because invariably when there are votes, there's a winner and a loser. There's a winning idea and a losing idea. What tends to happen is that whose idea didn't get selected feels resentment for it afterwards, and it can be really corrosive to team cohesion, to the way the team holds together. And so what I really suggest that you do instead is look in the roadmap, look on our website at the creative problem solving tools, and there's a bunch of creative problem solving tools out there that you can use to help teams come up with decisions on things that are much better and much more effective than voting. Even if you conduct a secret ballot, it is still not, that doesn't help. You really need to come up with a more collaborative way to make a decision process. And one of the typical ways that we do that in DI is by asking the team to list all the potential options and then list all the potential positives and negatives about each of those options. What will work about it? What won't? What's great about each of the options? Focusing more on the positives, and you do want to rank them for difficulty and for time that it'll take to do each of them. You also want to look at we're choosing an option on how to build something. You need to think about, do we have access to skills training where we can learn how to do that? Sometimes you're not going to actually come up with the answer to the question on the day that they decide that they have these things that they need to choose between. If you force the decision to happen immediately, you can run into some problems. So sometimes it's better to say, okay, let's list everything that we want to decide between. Let's list everything that we already know about it and the things we don't know about it, and decide who's going to research each of those things. And then maybe at the next meeting, make the decision. So use those tools. If you're not sure which one to use, you're always welcome to email an experienced team manager or email me or Dan, and we'll suggest a tool for your unique situation and on how to come up with a decision-making process. The other thing that goes together with this item of having respect for people and ideas and how you do the decision-making process is you should have ground rules for your team. And it doesn't hurt to set up some ground rules at the beginning of the year with your team, as well as with their parents. And those cover everything from interference to, how to treat each other with respect. So that's definitely something else that you can think about in terms of setting up your process with the team. And sometimes some of the teams like to actually develop their own ground rules. And it doesn't hurt to write those ground rules up, put them on a big sheet of paper, and stick it to the wall in whatever room you do your work in. We love giant Post-it notes, those big 30-inch Post-it notes. They work great. And that's actually a great way to help your team organize their ideas. When they make a decision about something, they can actually do their evaluation matrix or whatever tool they're using up on the paper. Then you can stick it up. And then when they go back and look at it, hey, why did we decide to do it this way? Well, they have a record of it now. All something to think about. I yield it back to you, Dan.
All right. And if we could try to click through the next slide and see what happens.
Sorry about that.
So this we talked about a little early. Focus on important results throughout the year. Small victories, small milestones, allow the team to celebrate them and focus on them, because if you're just aiming for the end goal, they're going to lose sight of what they're working on, and it becomes more tedious, and it is kind of for especially elementary and middle school aged and high school even, trying just to aim for something a couple months in the future. There's no rewards along the way. So when the team does something that they've been working towards, they build a set piece, or they build a structure that holds a certain amount of weight, or they finish their script, allow them to celebrate these milestones. Maybe have a little bit of a pizza party or an ice cream party or something, just to celebrate the fact that they've made it through these areas. If you just say to them, okay, we'll celebrate when we're done with the whole thing, they're going to just forget what they're working towards, and they're going to start kind of losing that excitement and energy over the process. The end result is excellent, but the small things along the way help fuel their excitement for what they're doing. And then the last thing here, welcome and manage change. There's different points throughout the year where the students are going to have to different uh, change what they've come up with so that they can be more successful. So talk about them about when is it appropriate to make changes. Talk about what are the risks of the changes, the time it's going to take to make those changes. Is it worth that time? But allow them to make changes when appropriate. They don't have to settle on the first idea they come up with just because it's the first one and they do it already. It might not be the best thing. Once you add other elements in, that idea might no longer work and they have to come up with something else. But teach them how to manage the concept of change and how to plan their time out so that they can accommodate those changes. And then, as it says there, recognize and respond to team members' diverse ways of dealing with change, processing information, and ways of making decisions. And that's going to be a big thing if you have a team member who maybe was the one who came up with an idea early on, and that idea then has to be changed. They may get upset about it, they might be defensive about it, but recognize the kind of validity of their reaction and help them understand why the change has to be made. If you kind of just approach it in a way like, get over it, we have to do something different, they're going to hold that resentment in. But if you say, I understand why you're upset, this was a great idea, we were able to work with it, but in order for us to be successful here, we have to do this differently, then they can start wrapping their head around why that change is being made. Okay, moving on.
Before we do, I want
not moving on.
One more item about that. I actually managed a team once that where they did really well at the regional tournament and at the affiliate tournament, but they after the affiliate tournament, they got feedback from the appraisers saying, you didn't use all the time you had available. You might want to consider adding something to use more of the 8 minutes that you have. And right after that was spring break. I apologize for the dog barking in the background. Right after that was spring break. And the team all went off their separate ways with the idea that we were going to all meet again immediately after the break. And when the team came back together, one of the kids came back with a fully written, completely new script for the entire sketch. Whole new story. They would have to, and the team basically came up, they thought about it a lot and they talked about it and they realized, hey, we can't do this. We don't have the time to learn all new lines. We don't have the time to build new props and new costumes for this whole new story. And the team member was very upset about that. And I said, as a team manager, so I intervened at that point. And I said, okay, let's stop and think about this. You want to extend your sketch. This member of the team has come up with an idea. Is there some way that you can incorporate his ideas into your existing sketch? Is there some way that you can incorporate these new ideas so that it's not totally wasted work, but it helps you get towards what you need to do, which is add an additional 3 minutes to your sketch? And in the end, they did. They ended up taking a shortened version of his new story idea and turned it into a commercial break in the middle of their sketch. It was brilliant. They actually won an award for it as a team choice element. It worked out really well. we thought on that day, he went home, he was happy, he was excited. And then about an hour after this team meeting, where we thought we had everything straightened out, I got a call from his mom saying he's crying. He's so upset that they didn't pick his idea. And what we discovered in that, and this goes back to the interference conversation, is that mom was actually more invested in that story than he was. So at that point, I had to intervene with mom and explain, okay, listen, the team came up with an idea. We brought them back together. We had a phone call, and they were refocused, and they agreed, and they went forward the way that they had discussed in the meeting. So it's important to have that conversation. Sometimes that after you have a breakdown like that, and they do happen, you need to, before the kids leave, you need to have that conversation with them on saying, this is what happened in the meeting. We worked around it, but you want to make sure that the parent is on the same page with you so that they don't work against purposes when the team has already worked around a breakdown. You want to make sure that the parents don't bring the kid back into the breakdown, which does sometimes happen. So just be careful about it, watch out for it, and you'll be fine.
All right, and next slide. So this is where we're going to talk a little bit about the actual challenges, and it's kind of hard to get into them because each challenge has their own specific requirements, but a little bit of overview of what they are. The challenges use art, technology, and performance as they tackle the team uses those art, technology, and performance as they tackle one of 7 team challenges. So there are 6 general challenges that any competitive level team can use, and then the one Rising Stars challenge. All of the challenges include some sort of performance, some use of art, some use of technology. The choice of challenge depends on which of those is kind of the highest inclusion of those. So if you actually look through the challenge brochures, a lot of them break down the STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, and math amount in each. So this one has this much science, this much technology, this much art. So a team that is big on the artistic end of things would maybe want to choose a challenge that is heavier on that, while a team that maybe is more into engineering would want to choose a challenge that's more on that. But each of them include a little bit at least of each of those elements. These solutions can take from several weeks to several months to develop. Some teams have started in early September creating their solutions already. Some teams are starting just about now. Either of that kind of timeline is fine, but really teams are going to want to be meeting starting in the next couple weeks at least to be working on their season. Teams must do research and experimentation to solve every aspect of the challenge and develop a presentation that demonstrates the team solution. So the challenges this year are listed right here. We've got On Target, which is the technical challenge. Medical Mystery is the scientific challenge. Game On is the fine arts challenge. Heads Up is the improvisational challenge. Monster Effects is engineering. Escape Artists is service learning, which is more like community outreach. And then Pop Up is the Rising Stars challenge. So when you've registered, you'll get all challenges full available digitally. And you can print out whichever challenge your team is working on. But all of the challenges are given to every team digitally, so you can read them through with the teams. They can decide either based on what their skill sets are or what they're interested in, which challenge they're going to pursue this year. And they're going to work on that one challenge for the entire season up till tournament day. So if they choose Game On, they're working on that Game On challenge up to tournament day. If they advance to states, they're still doing that same challenge all the way through. So this is a long-term solution based on very specific challenge given to them. And each of these challenges is written in a very detailed way, broken down exactly what the team has to include at the tournament, including point values, which are very kind of specific in the way they're broken down. So the team should really take a look at those in the challenge. But you're going to be reading these over and over and over again with the teams. All right. Josh, did you want anything or want to move on here?
There was one question in the chat. Padma was asking, what is the 10-question limit to appraisers? I think I'm not entirely certain what you're referring to, but I think what you're referring to is clarifications. One of the things, once you read the challenge, if the team is uncertain about what the challenge means or has some question, the first thing you should do before you send in a clarification is you might want to ask me. Send me an email. I can, a lot of times I can just direct you to where to look in the challenge to find the answer to your question. If I can't do that, if I can't direct you to someplace in the challenge or someplace in the rules of the road that answers your question, you can send in what's called a clarification request. It has to be requested by the team, not the team manager, although the team manager can be the scribe, can do the writing. And you're allowed up to 10 of those questions, and they get sent directly to the International Challenge Masters, and they respond with a question which, with an answer which holds the power of law. That is, it's just as if that was a new rule added to the challenge. And so if you have a team-specific clarification like that. I hope that answered your question. So Padma, if it did, please put back, indicate in the chat that I got it right.
Okay, moving on to the second half here. Instant challenge we've talked kind of about throughout, but it's an impromptu situation. The kids get a new challenge on tournament that they've never seen before, and they're always graded or scored on teamwork as an element of the challenge. So how well do they work with each other? Are there kind of clearly defined roles within the team? Are they supportive of each other's ideas? There's always an element of scoring for teamwork in the instant challenge. Creative problem solving techniques, always elements scored by creative problem solving techniques. And then there's either performance, some type of material manipulation or building or construction or something like that, or a combination of those two things in an instant challenge. So there are some instant challenges that are completely performance based. Create a 3-minute skit based on this concept. For example, there's either, or there could be entirely material manipulation, build a structure that is as tall as possible using these materials would be an example of that. Or there's a combination of that. Use these materials to make a puppet and create a performance out of it would be an example of that. So instant challenge types are that performance, material manipulation, or a combination of those two. And then there's the concept of time management. So there's always a time limit, and the team needs to be able to function within whatever time it is. It's usually around 5 to 7 minutes about for an instant challenge. So let the kids practice working within those time constraints. Maybe let them work with a little extra time at first, and then slowly work down to they're working with the actual constraints given in the challenge so that they're used to what that feels like. Because if you're on tournament day working on a solution, 4 minutes feels like nothing. It flies by like that. So if they have been practicing over and over and over again with kind of 4 or 5 minute time limits, they have more of an understanding of what that feels like. If they don't practice like that, they're going to kind of flounder for that amount of time, I would think. Okay, and next. So this is where we kind of get down to the resources that are available for you. So we've talked a little bit. I'm going to just pause here for a second. We've talked about the year, what it looks like. We talked about interference. We talked about what you can do to build a successful team. And we talked about what the goal in your year is going to be with the team challenge and the instant challenge. So as Josh and I have said throughout, if you have any questions this year, please reach out. Don't feel like you are required to do this alone. The program goal is to support the team managers in an effort to support the students or the kids. So don't feel like you have to do this alone. Don't be embarrassed about reaching out. You reaching out is not going to have an impact on the team's score or their participation at tournament, other than it will improve their work because you've asked for help when you need it. So don't be embarrassed. Don't be hesitant. If you need help, please reach out. Your regional director here in the Eastern region is Josh Diamond, and there's his email. If we have anyone in the Western region, John Brennan is the Western region director this year. My name is Dan Boniello. I'm the affiliate training director, and we will be running webinars kind of throughout the year, but there's also materials available on the NYDI website, and I've had kind of other banks of trainings collected. If you are looking for something specific, I might already have something created that you can use. And then Sue Braley is our affiliate director, but don't reach out to Sue first because she would be just inundated with emails from the state. Reach out to Josh or myself first, and then if needed, we'll direct you to Sue, who's always happy to help, but we don't want to overwhelm her with things that Josh or I could handle. Josh, did you want to add anything?
Yeah. Again, exactly what Dan said. Use us. We're here for you. Don't feel embarrassed. I was once a team manager just like you the first year. I hadn't a clue what I was doing, other than that I'd seen it from the outside as a parent of a team member. And just don't feel that you're alone. We're here to help. Use the tools. The one thing that I would ask that everybody did at least once before picking up the phone or before sending that email is go read the challenge one more time. Go see if you can find the answer to your question in Rules of the Road one more time. Go look at Roadmap one more time. I'd have to say that the vast majority of questions that I answer are answered by saying, go look at this page of the challenge or go look at that page of Rules of the Road. Yes, I know Rules of the Road is about 40 pages long. There's a lot of it that you don't need to know immediately, but you should at least start reading it now. I mean, I have to say that if I had to pick one thing we did not talk about, Dan, is budget.
Oh, yeah.
To me, we didn't talk about budget. I'm going to go into that really super quickly because the reason I'm going to go into it super quickly is because it's the one thing that I get the most questions about, more than any other. Every challenge has its own dedicated, specific maximum budget. And it's basically this is the maximum cost of all the materials that the teams are allowed to bring out onto the stage when they do their performance. If it isn't on the stage, they don't need to charge it against their budget. But you do need to be honest about the budget, and the appraisers can tell when people are not being honest about the budget. So be honest about the budget. And that's another thing that's done, just like interference. That's another thing that's done to keep it a fair playing field. That the budget rules, I will admit, are complex because there are things that are exempt from the budget. Certain electronic equipment doesn't need to be included in the budget. Certain kinds of furniture don't need to be included in the budget. On the other hand, just because you find something in the trash doesn't mean that it doesn't have to be in the budget. You can only call something trash if it costs less than $1, right? If it's something that you would buy and could buy in a store for more than $1, then it's not trash, even if you found it in the trash. Okay. So read the rules about the expense report carefully, because as I said, that is the place where I get the absolute most questions from teams as they're trying to fill out their tournament data forms, getting ready for the tournament. They're asking all about that's where the questions come. But so take a look at that, read it carefully. It explains it in great detail. But if you're still stumped, if you just don't know where to find it there, feel free to email me. I will point you in the right place. It's gotten to the point where I've got the page numbers almost memorized. So don't hesitate to ask me. I just request that you do take a look and read it first. Okay. And I think that's about it on this topic.
All right. So unless there are any kind of questions anybody wants to ask real quick, that's pretty much the end of the presentation for tonight. We do have an in-person training coming up if anyone attended tonight and wants kind of a little bit more hands-on. Josh, that is this Saturday at what time?
I believe unmuted. Yes, we're starting at 9 o'clock.
So if you were able to attend tonight and want a little bit more hands-on on Instant Challenge, especially, we'll have that this Saturday. And we have webinars throughout. I know a lot of you have signed up for them already, but if you are interested in attending the webinars, please sign up, and we hope to see you guys there.
Okay, and if you have any questions that come up after this, feel free, as I said, feel free to email me. This presentation has been recorded. Feel free to share it on to other team managers. If you have co-managers that we're working together, feel free to share it on. I'll be sending out the same link that you use to connect to the webinar will be live and will stay live on YouTube at least till the end of the tournament season. So I thank you all for attending. I'm just going to take one look back to see if there's if anybody else posted questions. I don't think I see any more questions, but feel free to send them if you do. And but do send your questions by email. Don't do them as YouTube comments. I don't monitor the YouTube comments. I do monitor the email. So thanks very much. And thank you, Dan, for developing this wonderful presentation, which he updates every year for us. Thank you.
My pleasure. Have a good one, everyone.